Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome, everybody, to Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. Hello to our friends at KSFL TV. We welcome you viewing in Sioux Falls and KNBN in western South Dakota and all parts in between at Inforum.com. Happy Hump Day, everybody. It is the 19th day of August. It is Wednesday. We are ready to rock and roll as we are closing in on the start of the North Dakota high school football season. It officially begins on Friday, just a couple days away. We got some good stuff coming up the rest of the week. Get you ready for the start of the season. Not only that, we've got one of my favorite golf events is back again starting tomorrow out at Rose Creek. We're going to head out there later today to get you ready for the 62nd edition of the Bobcat Open. One of my all-time favorite events to cover is back again. It's that time of year. When the Bobcat's here, means school's right around the corner, football's here. That's typically how I always equated it, and we'll preview that coming up later on in our program today. Quick thing before we get rocking and rolling here. Last night, NDSU had its annual fan day up inside the indoor practice facility, and as I saw NDSU Athletic Director Matt Larson, I was dressed as a civilian last night. I went not to work. I brought the Jackman last night. Appreciate it. I had many people come up and first say they recognized Jack, which was awesome. That was the best part of the night. But that watched the show. I also ran into a gentleman who was talking with one David Richmond. You may know him, men's basketball head coach at North Dakota State, who was just effusive with praise for his segment on Hot Mic that he does each and every Wednesday throughout the season. We're negotiating again. Believe that's going to happen as we get closer to the start of the season. And he just couldn't say enough. Loved to have Dave on and all that stuff. And I just sat there. I'm like, well, see, I told you there's some people that watch. So I appreciate the gentleman that came up and said that last night to Dave and I. It was good stuff. And got a sense that there was some definite energy there. Not to say that it may, I'll say it. I don't know if it was the same in past years. You know, we've been up there because we sponsored the event, WDAY does, and I could say the first time we did it way back in 2021, it was a cluster for us because we were still trying to figure out everything and get us ready to go on the air. But I would say when we were back up there in 22, I don't know if there was one year, I don't know if they did it, that it was just not necessarily going through the motions, but it was the start of a new season and all that. I did not get that sense last night. You know, between the amount of people that asked me about the year, just the energy there, there's some definite momentum heading towards the start of the year, which is, as we sit here today, 10 days away from the start of the new football season for the Bison. So that was some good stuff last night. We got a lot to get to here today. We'll talk FCS football with our guy Sam Herder coming up later on in this first hour as the rotating transfer and temporary restraining order world turns, because there's another really interesting story going out of the FCS that happened yesterday. It's perfect timing for have Sam on today to discuss. We'll do that coming up later on here in the first hour. But let's start with some baseball. Minnesota Twins hit their nadir on Sunday. Right, their lowest point after the Phillies came back from 5-0 down to beat them. We played the sound with Derek Shelton on Monday's show, how frustrated he was and how disappointed he was in his team's play, specifically over the last couple games at Target Field. And we talked about it Monday that it wasn't getting easier. Atlanta's coming to town. The Braves are the best record in the National League East, one of the better teams in baseball throughout the season. What do the Twins go and do? They get a great pitching performance on Monday after they score all the runs in the first inning, have to hold on and win 4-2 on Monday. Last night, Zebby Matthews is going, and almost a carbon copy of what went down on Monday transpired last night, because if you got there late, you missed everything that happened for the Twins in terms of scoring runs, because they got after right away. Josh Bell blasts one, and I mean, this is a moonshot. The ball doesn't go up there often, folks. If you get a home run ball, save it. 434-foot shot makes it 2-0 home team off former Twin great Tyler Mahle. Drake Baldwin, who would answer back for Atlanta of Zebby Matthews in the top of the sixth. Little opposite field poke just out of the reach there to make it a 2-1 score. That was into the sixth inning. Alan Roden comes up with a nice diving play to keep it a 2-1 game. Later in the sixth, Cody Funderburk is in. So you can see the diving effort there by Roden out in right field. Funderburk in, 2 on, gets the strikeout to end the inning on a nasty pitch to Lane Thomas. Bottom of the eighth. Twins get some insurance. Jeffers goes to the opposite field. I love the opposite field hitting done by Minnesota last night. That's going to produce 2 runs. Major insurance there, makes it 4-1. Yandres Gomez comes in and gets a save for the second straight night. And the Minnesota Twins have won the series against Atlanta. A 4-1 win last night behind 5 2/3 from Zebby Matthews, who gets the win. Allowed just the 1 run, the home run you saw, and 5 hits. And after that, the Twins bullpen allowed 1 hit and 1 base runner the rest of the way. Funderburk, Morris, A.J. Minter was really good. He pitched the 8th last night, former Met great, and threw only 6 pitches to get out of the... That's why you trade for a guy like that in the 8th. Then Gomez picks up his 19th save of the season. They got to Mahle, 6 2/3, 6 hits, and a couple of earned runs. So, the division race this morning, the Twins now occupy second by a half game over Cleveland and Detroit. Because Detroit lost, the Guardians won, and the White Sox got walked off again by the Cubs. So Minnesota's picked up 2 games here on the White Sox over the last 2 days. Again, when the American League's playing the National League, normally it's going the way of the senior circuit here. But the American League gets a couple games back with the Twins winning over Atlanta. In the wild card race, it changes again by the day. As you wake up this morning, Texas has the last spot. A half game clear of the Twins and the Blue Jays, then the Guardians, then the Orioles, then the Tigers. We'll make some executive producing decision. We'll get a new graphic here just with the wild card race. The division race, we'll worry about. They'll give you a separate one, but we'll need just one because there's 7 teams in it in the wild card race going forward. Twins play again today. Day game at Target Field to wrap up the 3-game set at 12:30. Then off day tomorrow. Then it's off to San Diego to start a road trip there. Their second of 3 West Coast trips they have here in the second half of the season. They still have to go back to play the Angels. This trip, they'll go San Diego and then off to Sacramento to face the Athletics. Figure this team out. You're way smarter than I am because they couldn't have played any worse than they did for the 3 games against Philly, right? I understand they were up 5-0 in that game on Sunday, but the last, whatever it was, 6 innings of that game was not good. Compared on top of, they didn't play well at the Field of Dreams. They didn't play well Saturday night. And then the last 2 days, they look like a division-winning team. Pitching-wise, they've been amazing. They've held Atlanta. And Atlanta's scuffling right now, and that happens during the baseball season when you play 162 games. But Atlanta is 4-6 in its last 10 games here, so it's not like they're playing gangbusters. But they've scored 3 runs against Minnesota. I mean, pitching-wise, holy cow. If you told me that was going to happen, there's no way I believe that. Taj Bradley is the guy going for the Twins to wrap up today. Now, to counteract great pitching is what I'm going to show you what happened last night in Milwaukee. Because the Brewers were playing the Mariners last night. Typically, it wouldn't find its way onto Hot Mic simply because there's nothing local for us to chat about. But we had something last night that happened that anytime you either tie or set a record in baseball history, you're doing something remarkable. Baseball's been around for 150 years, 160 years. So if you're doing that, it's noteworthy. Last night, the Brewers clobbered the Mariners to a point where it got, frankly, embarrassing for Seattle at the end of this game. We'll show you the moving pictures of what went down last night. It's only 3-0 in the fifth inning, all right? It's respectable. Christian Yelich, former MVP, the kind of the Marlins find players like him, bombs one, 3-run home run, right? Okay, it's 6-0. David Hamilton is up, bottom of the sixth, 2 men on, home run. All right, it's 9-0. It's getting ugly. Jake Bauers is up, still in the sixth inning. I think he got all of that one. That's gone. 2-run shot. It's 11-0. Then the Mariners decide, okay, the game is out of reach. We're going to put some position players in. It's 13-0 when it gets really bad. That ball hammered off the bat of Luis Lara. Remember, he had the great catches against the Twins. Okay, now it's 16-0. Now it's 19-0. Then Julio Rodriguez thinks there's 2 outs here. He makes the catch, then throws the ball into the stands. That's going to allow 2 runs to come in to score because he thought the inning was over. It's 21-0. You can't have that. Lara's up again in the 8th. Bloops a hit. That scores another run. The Brewers put up 22 runs last night. We got position players pitching all over the place. The Brewers tie the record for the biggest win in the modern era of baseball. Since 1901, the only previous 22-0 victories were the Pirates over the Cubs on September 16th, 1975, and Cleveland at the Yankees on October the 31st, 2004. I have no recollection of that game whatsoever. I got to tell you, Julio Rodriguez is a great player. That will linger for a while. I know they play again today, so a chance to, wipe it away and get back out there. But the one thing we're always taught is pay attention, right? I'm telling my son about that right now when he's playing, whether it's t-ball, whether it's soccer, to pay attention. You got to know what's going on, right? And it's hard to do with a 7-year-old. But he's a professional, and I get it. You've pitchers in there that are out of the game. You've got your starting left fielder or backup catcher is now pitching, right? But you can't have that. You can't have it when you just totally misplay the ball. You totally forget what's happening during the game. It begs for, you're going to get harassed. That's going to be plastered everywhere. But now you wait for, we're going to get Drew on so you can lambaste him since his Mariners are the one that your Brewers lit up. We can do that coming up here because I want to get to break and stay on time here today. It was bad. But I can remember vividly having it happen once for me. This is Little League when I was 12. And my dad will remember this story because my dad would bring rocks and pelt them with me to pay attention, to stay locked in the game. Because I played right field. Who goes to right field? The worst players typically play right field, right? And I can vividly remember lackadaisically trying to go get a ball. What happened? The ball ran underneath my glove. 2 runs came around. Cost us the game. I wasn't paying attention. Now, granted, this game wasn't in doubt. It was 19-0 when he catches the ball and throws it in the stands. But that's not ideal. 22-0. Holy cow. More on that coming up in our next segment. We got a packed show coming up for you here today. Our Wednesday guest lineup is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. We set Drew up here. He's walking into the fire here, but we'll talk some NFL as well coming up with our guy Drew Trafton, including Devin Witherspoon signing a record deal for his Seahawks that happened early this week. Latest episode of Hard Knocks was on last night. We'll talk with Drew about all sorts of good stuff coming up here in a few minutes. I mentioned Sam Herder will join us at 9:35. The crazy story on Pat McQuaid, the Villanova quarterback, who we saw play in the semifinals last year. Villanova lost to Illinois State. Thought his eligibility is done. Then it was resuscitated. Then it was over. Then it was back. And then something else happened yesterday. We'll discuss that at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, one of my favorites, Mark Johnson will join us, tournament director of the Bobcat Open, as they get set to tee off new dates on this. Typically, they've gone Friday to Sunday. This time, it's Thursday to Saturday. Mark will join us at 10 o'clock to give us the preview of who's playing this year at the Bobcat. Had some tremendous golfers come through here, and notwithstanding this year, it's the best around the area collegiately are playing. Some pretty good pros are going to be there. Excited to talk to Mark about that. That's coming up at 10. Also, later in the show, we'll go around the Mountain West for some more headlines. New Mexico is going to make a QB decision, and it may not be the guy that we thought. And if you thought college football season starts early now, wait till I tell you where it could start next year. If you think you're sick of me hearing that the summer is over after July 4th, I will show you how early we're starting football next season. That's coming up later on in the show. So a lot to get to here on a busy Wednesday morning. We'll take our first break. We come back. Our guy Drew Trafton to chat some NFL. His Seahawks off to a brilliant start. That and a heck of a lot more when we return on a Wednesday morning edition of Hot Mic. Back after this.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, now I hate to do this to you, but I teed up Eric for like 4 minutes here.
I was very aware.
The Brewers.
I left the control room when you started that clip. I was just like, I'm not doing this.
So he's had 4 minutes here to sit on this.
We've been talking back there for like half an hour. You're gonna give him more time.
Hey, you know what? He punches the buttons up there. So if he wants, he can mute me, which is everybody's dream. All right, let her rip. What do you got?
Yeah, what do you got?
So first off, I walked in and said, Drew, I'm glad you're not mad at me because the Brewers just manhandled the Seahawks. Secondly, this kind of makes up for that Phil Mary that Seattle kind of boned us over back
that was in
12 years ago.
That was 14 years ago.
Whatever, it makes up for it.
Get over it.
No, I'm not going to get over it. I'll never get over it.
That was that nothing happened out of that.
What do you mean nothing happened?
You know what my favorite part about that, by the way? So I was working that night, getting ready to, I think it was after the sports was done. This is when Gruden was still on the broadcast.
Oh, yeah.
And Gruden said, I'll never forget, Green Bay's going to have a hard time flying 6,000 miles back home. I'm like, what? Are they flying to Russia? Where are they going? 6,000? He said that on the air.
That's so funny. Yeah, that was, boy.
That is a bludgeoning. The Julio Rodriguez thing, I get brain farts happen every day. People do them in their jobs and they're not televised.
Yeah.
Right? That's a really tough
I think that's such, like an indicator of where that team's culture is right now.
Yeah,
because
you mentioned that before.
Look, they're only 3 games out of the wild card at this point, and they're like, and yes, they were down 19 runs at that point. That game was 1-0 halfway through the game.
Yeah, right.
That's
it was
a crazy
3-0 in the 6th inning.
It was 1-0 after the top of the 5th, like literally halfway through the game. It's there. That got me thinking because there have been all these things that have been happening with that team behind the scenes where these reports are coming out that if they don't make the playoffs, Dan Wilson, their manager, is going to get fired. Which I always hate those sort of reports because it's like, if that's true, just fire the guy.
Let the guy go now.
It's like, if that's the contingency that this is all hanging on, and then I was thinking even back further, like I pulled this from, my parents had their wedding anniversary, a bigger one this past May, and my brothers and I, like we bought a cameo from Edgar Martinez, who's the Hall of Fame DH, the award's named after the guy. in Major League Baseball. And I had looked at a few that he had done previously before we like ordered ours. And that's where you contract with somebody who's on that service, like an athlete or an actor or somebody, and they just record a message and send it to you. And he had said, like in the leading up to it, like in a bunch of them leading up that were on the site to preview that, hey, this is going to be our year. We're really excited about it. Like we've got all the pieces in place. And in May, which was, like 2 months into the season, he records ours and like no mention at all of how the team's doing, or like if he's like, we're really excited about this season, or we're feeling good about it. Nothing.
Man.
And I was like, well, that doesn't like, and I was like, well, maybe that's just like me overthinking things. And then that happens. Their shortstop, who was in his rookie season, had been playing through apparently a season-ending injury for who knows how long, until he, and he was afraid to say something, apparently. It's like, what is going on in that culture?
Yeah.
That great. Team. It was awful. Sorry, I'll stop lamenting.
That's, again, in professional sports, when you think you have, we're going to be built, we're going to be good for a while. Like the Mariners made it, or a win away from going to the World Series.
8 outs away from the World Series. And seemingly better this year, right?
Right.
With
the Mets were 2 years ago. The Mets are 2 wins away from going to the World Series as well.
Yeah.
Right? And now they're a cluster, It just when you have your window, man, enjoy it as much as you can.
Yeah.
I know it was soul crushing and ripped your guts out last year, but on the flip side, obviously, we'll get to the Seahawks here in a second. The Seahawks won the Super Bowl. Like that's for fandom. And I was lamenting this because I had somebody email the show yesterday on the chats. Like, it's been so long since they've been good. I haven't had a chance. All I know is misery and suffering.
Yeah.
So when actually they're good,
hope is more dangerous.
Right.
In some of those.
I'm gonna go crazy
Respects,
if they end up if they're over 500 in September. Look out on this show. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Like that's a prayer that's gonna happen. But anyway, your guy, Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah.
You picked it. When we did our Hot Mic mock draft, whatever year that was, 2 years ago, you had the Seahawks. You said this is who they're going to take.
Yeah,
man,
he's one of the few that I got right.
What was the trade, by the way? Was that the Jets trade?
Part of the that was part of the Russell Wilson deal
the Broncos
that they ended
deal.
Up getting 2 first-rounders, and they got Spoon and JSN.
4 years, $132 million. He's all right. He's really good.
And now, for the first time in NFL history, you have the top-paid receiver and the top-paid cornerback on this from the same draft class.
And they're paying Sam Darnold a heck of a lot of money. So
so you get and he won't be the top-paid for long.
No.
And neither will JSN.
No.
Puka's going to get his new deal probably here. Christian Gonzalez with the Patriots is going to get his new deal maybe before the season starts. So that that just happens.
It's normally how it works. Yeah.
Like one deal tops the other or dictates the other. But he's been just like such a key cog to what's been going on. They had their 50th season last year, and he's in his rookie contract, and he was already named top 50 players in franchise history, which I'm not sure he's deserved that at this point. But he's a difference maker when he's on the field.
If you go back and watch the game against the Giants, was it last year or 2 years ago on Monday Night Football?
2 years ago.
He deserves to be. He was amazing in that game. So he's probably earned his spot in the top 50.
Absolutely. And now they have him locked up because he has 2 years left on his rookie deal. So they have him locked up for 6 years, which is awesome.
Did you watch any of their preseason opener?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Take anything out of that or no?
Not really, because none of the starters played.
Right.
So, but it was really good to see like that depth there. And they had a really good opening drive. And I was watching their offense more than the defense because they have a new offensive coordinator, and they did well. But then their line depth was so poor. On offensive and defensive line that it was really hard to watch after that second quarter and take much away from it because there's so many mistakes and it was just it wasn't good.
See, that's the hard thing on preseason football, and I was saying this on Monday. You have to temper it. We're all excited to see football back, but if someone goes and has a great performance, you have to understand that against guys that aren't going to be on the team, or may be on the practice squad, but it's just so hard to walk that fine line of trying not to get too
Yeah,
giddy about
you're really
things.
looking at just like individual athletes and
Right.
looking at the depth chart and like, ooh, can they make this team? Or
Right.
they, is there any hope that you're going to hold on to this player for the practice squad?
Right.
Like,
Can he
or
get
are they
through?
going to get swooped up by somebody?
So I bring that up because I know you're surrounded in your household by Viking fans.
Yeah.
Of how the Vikes played on, and the Vikes played everybody.
Yeah.
Kyler
Yeah.
Murray played. The entire offensive line
You kind of
played.
have to, right?
Well, I
when,
would
when you're bringing in somebody new, you need to get those snaps in.
So what did you take away for the Vikes preseason opener?
Again, not a lot. You
Yeah.
know, like it was.
I take away this: Carson Wentz is going to be the backup quarterback.
Right. Well,
I
that
think
was
Carson
the
Wentz
thing.
is the number 2.
And it's like, but can you do that? Like that was my
Sure
big
you
question
can.
mark. I mean, you could, yeah, but like what of JJ McCarthy then?
He
Which
goes
has been the big
right. He
bubble
goes down the
question,
road
right?
of the Trey Lance, of the Anthony Richardson. I'm forgetting another top pick that is either not playing or somewhere. Those come right to mind.
Yeah.
That JJ's going to be in that same boat. And AR's still with the Colts, and Trey's obviously on his 3rd NFL team. I mean, if this throw here. I mean, that was his best throw of the day.
One, yes, sorry.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
they're all saying that, but then after that, it was. It's funny, Drew. If you watch the highlights, and somebody posted this on Twitter on Sunday or Monday of him playing that first preseason game 2 years ago against the Raiders, and he looked confident. He knew where he was going with the ball. He's regressed.
Yeah,
in 2 years'
that was
time.
I was going to say, like, he's taking too long.
Totally.
Like, I mean, that was, I mean, he's just holding on to it. And it's like, if you're doing that against the 2s and the 3s and the 4s for the Giants,
Man,
it's
right.
not going to get slower.
No.
I mean, it's like that is rough, and he's in his own head. It almost kind of reminded me of when Chris, not to rip open old wounds, but when Christian Ponder was their starting quarterback.
Nope.
Like it kind of was reminiscent of that.
So
He's
they
more
have
mobile,
their joint practices start today with
Yeah.
Baltimore, and that's going to be only harder there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to see Murray play Saturday. This is when Kyler Murray's likely his last time we're going to see him before the first game of the season with Green Bay.
And this is crucial.
Right. This is big today and tomorrow,
yeah.
big time.
You want to see like a really good, long, sustained drive.
Right.
Like that's what you want out of him, and then you want him out.
See, it's funny because the Patriots were here last year, and Vrabel was so mad at how they performed during the joint practices. Drake May and the starters played.
That's right.
In the preseason game. No one would have thought the Patriots were Super Bowl contenders when they were here last August.
Because he said, "Hey, we need it."
Right,
I remember
and they
that.
played in
Yeah,
the
that's right.
preseason game against the Vikings. So again,
it sets a
it's
tone, though.
important,
Like,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's again, you have to judge on how much you want to put value on
I'm just
this.
such not a Kyler Murray believer, and I've been, and I try to be optimistic about, okay, I can see the path forward for this
Right.
and how this is going to work. And to me, that trail of how they have success with him behind the center is so narrow that
Totally.
it's hard to see it. But yeah, I mean, that's the Carson Wentz thing seemed to be the consensus as well. It's like, man, Carson looks like he's the backup here,
Right.
And it's like, well, and that's tough, like with all that capital. And it's like, was firing Kwesi, was that a big enough like sin eater?
But O'Connell has to get blamed for it too. It's not on Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. KOC was out there championing that McCarthy was the guy.
Exactly, and that's the point where it's like, okay, is that him backing up his GM? Does that firing then take
Right.
all the heat off of that first round selection?
Well, so you look at those 6 guys that were drafted. We got to go here,
That's
right?
the other
So you got Caleb Williams doing what he's doing in
Yeah.
Chicago, right? Bo Nix was a game away from going to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Drake May played in the Super Bowl. Jaden Daniels had an amazing, he's hurt
So
last
much
year.
success.
And then you've got Penix and you've
Yeah.
got McCarthy. The 2 guys who played in that national championship game are the 2 outliers right now of the other 6 that
Yeah.
have had. And that's the thing. As a Jet fan, I can understand this where, 2018 draft, right? Baker went 1. Baker's been okay. I know he's on his, 3rd or 4th team,
Yeah.
but Baker's
He's a
panned
franchise
out,
quarterback,
right?
yeah.
Josh Allen was in that draft. Sam Darnold didn't work out. Now it has. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy.
The funny thing with Baker is like I see him as like, I'm like, he would be great for the Vikings if he can't sign a deal with the Bucks.
Wow.
Like it's like, bring him in if you're doing some Band-Aid quarterbacking, for the next
Vikes are already going to be in that
3-4
position.
years.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
that's
it's-
Who am I forgetting
you don't
in
wanna
that
get
draft?
Stuck there.
There's somebody else in 18. Eric, who else was in that? Was Josh Rosen in that draft in
No,
18?
wasn't he the year before?
I can't remember.
No, because he was the year before Kyler was drafted.
Yeah,
because
Kyler was the number one. Right, Kyler was the number one pick.
Switching his guys there.
There's somebody else in that 18 draft of the quarterbacks. I can't remember at the top there, but it was Rosen. Okay. Who was out of UCLA at that time? Who was going to be? It's just it's an exact science of how it goes. Next week we're talking week 1 football. Week 0, I guess.
I get it.
How do we determine that? Because it's over now for week 0.
Yeah,
the FCS starts next week. That's week
is no
1.
longer. Yeah,
it should be. I'm going to talk about that later in the show.
We need to find a different term for that. Week kickoff. I don't know how you do kickoff week.
I saw this and I didn't want to bring it up, especially after in light of what happened with the Mariners last night. But Vegan's name is all over.
Kick me when I'm down.
Vegan's name is all over the place. A lot of Montana State love right now going on.
They're like some. Yeah, it's like
and rightfully so. Vegas has turned down
Dolphins. Or
Vegas has turned down other jobs. It's
Yeah.
only a matter of time. But I think he's in the same boat with Tim. I think he wants to take Montana State to the FBS.
I know. I know.
And I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon.
Well, that situation, and we talked about this before. I know we're out of time. It's so much harder for the Montana schools because they have to go, and they have to go as a group. Like that's been what's in different years you've had, different eras. You've had one school ready to go.
Yep.
And one school's not financially.
Correct.
And that's been, and now it's that way with Montana State's ready to go, but Montana's not.
Yep. All right, man. We'll see you next week. Thanks for coming by. Don't let Benel get you any hard time.
I'm kind of numb to it at this point.
Seahawks have more world championships than the Packers lately. I can say that. Thanks for coming by. All right, let's break. When we come back, our guy Sam Herder will join us. Some really interesting news out of the FCS yesterday in regards to Villanova's quarterback. We'll talk about that, the top 10, and we're closing. We're a week out from actual games. It's coming up. We come back.
This is Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks to our guy Drew Trafton for joining us, taking some hits there in that last segment. It is Wednesday at 9:35, which for our hardcore viewers out there, if you don't know, we switched our next guest. He's going to join us each and every Wednesday throughout the football season and beyond, because there's never news that doesn't happen in football season. Sam Herder joins us from FCS BetMGM and Hero Sports to give us everything going on in FCS football. There's no shortage of things to talk about. We're 8 days out from games being played, a week from tomorrow. There's games on Thursday night, which we'll preview in full a week from today. But the news that I think resonated throughout college football yesterday wasn't just FCS restricted, Sam, was in Villanova. And we have talked about the Pat McQuaid story, I think, since Villanova got eliminated last December. Was he eligible? Was he going to come back? We didn't know. Then in April, we think, okay, he's eligible to play. Then the Patriot League comes down, that's Villanova's new conference, and says, no, you're ineligible. This is a wild story.
It is, yeah, and it's really grabbed the national attention as well, because this could in some way set precedents to conference-wide governance rules, and that is kind of what, if the Protect College Sports Act, if that doesn't go through, I think option B for like the SEC and the Big Ten is just say, we'll just create our own rules because, I don't know all the legalese, but it's easier to sue the NCAA over some ruling compared to a conference because a conference is a bit more ironclad with a smaller amount of teams. With the Patriot League denying the waiver, I guess, for Pat McQuaid, that's certainly something that people are going to be paying attention to see if that does hold up, because I'm guessing they're going to try to fight that in courts as well. But I think I don't know the specific Patriot League rules on why they won't allow him to play. But, I've heard like Lehigh has a few guys that have been trying to gain an extra year of eligibility. And I've heard that the Patriot League has denied some of them, but they accepted one of them. But that hasn't gone official just yet. So I don't know, all the ins and outs of why some would be able to come back and others won't be able to. And you also run the risk. I think what teams are finding out are, like right now, if a guy uses 4 years of eligibility in 4 years, and now the courts are now allowing that person to come back for a fifth year, the NCAA is actively trying to reverse that. And so if a guy is playing for his fifth year in week 3 and all of a sudden the NCAA gets that reversal, now is that guy off the team? And will the NCAA say any games that this guy played in, you're going to forfeit?
Yeah.
That's what the Patriot League told Villanova. If McQuaid plays in any games, you're going to forfeit those games. So it's a tough balancing act for teams.
So McQuaid's attorney, Richard Hamilton, said it's an extraordinary move. No conference has done it. I have no idea why the Patriot League has insinuated itself into it, and have no idea why the Patriot League believes that it, and not the court, is the final arbiter on who plays and who doesn't after a valid court injunction. That's the basis, obviously, what they're going to try and, I would imagine, appeal this and sue the Patriot League is probably next. Here's the part on the football side of it. Villanova plays a game a week from Friday, and now if they assume that McQuaid was their guy, now it's all up in the air again.
Yeah, I think they've been preparing for both scenarios where, if I don't know if they've operated under the assumption that McQuaid was for sure going to be the starter, but he has been practicing. But I also think they've rotated in some of their other guys to take first team reps. I know they have a true freshman that they really like. But yeah, I mean we're in crunch time now, and yeah, it's just crazy what college football or college sports in general has turned into. And yeah, like the Patriot League is a bit unique because most of their teams allow grad transfers, but I think or grad players, I should say. I think Georgetown is one that doesn't. But like the Ivy League, even if you have a fifth year available, like the Ivy League doesn't allow graduate players. And so you see a lot of Ivy League guys after 4 years transfer to the FBS because they need to go somewhere else for their fifth year. So that's why I think like the Patriot League's decision could be a bit more ironclad compared to maybe the NCAA-wide decision.
It's just remarkable that we're in this spot. You've been tweeting out different announcements from other schools welcoming back guys. I mean, it's mid-August, Sam. Like these guys they're just hanging around and then they're eligible to play. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, AJ Pena, he was from Rhode Island, defensive end, edge player. He was the CAA Defensive Player of the Year last year. He's back practicing. Will he actually play? I don't know, because I'm pretty sure he signed a CFL contract, or at least he was on a squad. Maybe he didn't sign a contract. I don't know. Kelby Givens from Southern, really good defensive end. He's now back as well. Still waiting on SFA. Kylan Harris, potentially he could be coming back. Lehigh's wide receiver, Jeffrey Jamil, he could potentially be coming back. Those are two All-American wide receivers. I've heard those are looking promising, but I keep on refreshing their bio pages, and it still says 2025. And then UND has 3 defensive back starters that, as of right now, are practicing. They're on the roster. They expect them to play. Significant players as well. I think they're going to play, but maybe the rug gets pulled out from underneath them. I have no idea.
That Avery Scott we talked about, Johnny Wiltshire, another one. They're huge pieces of the UND defense if they are allowed to play. And that's, again, the Fighting Hawks have their first game a week from tomorrow. It's not like we're in the middle of July. It's August 19th. It's remarkable that this is the big storyline that's surrounding a bunch. It's not just FCS teams. There's a bunch of FBS teams that are doing the same thing too.
Yeah, and it's why the Protect College Sports Act is far from perfect, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it seems like 95% of college sports wants this to pass. Yet things happen in DC where it's like, well, if you vote yes, then you have to vote yes for this other thing and then this thing, and they just can't get it done. And so it's just something needs to happen where we're not dealing with this, like you said, a week before games actually start.
Just wild out there. What other headlines have caught your attention that's going on over the last little bit?
Yeah, I think fall camp or preseason camp storylines. Austin Majewski sounds like he's taken the reins to be South Dakota's starting quarterback. Now, that's not official yet. It sounds like Matt Vitzlam's his strategy was to give all 3 of the quarterbacks, and they have 3 good options, 4, 5, 6 practices to see who takes the reins, and then go with a guy. Not necessarily say you are for sure our day one starter, but as of right now, you're our QB1. Let's see how you handle it. It sounds like all 3 quarterbacks have had good moments and bad moments, but right now it seems like they might be going with the redshirt freshman who was a 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in high school in Colorado, 6'5", big arm as well. So that is one storyline. Another one as well, Alec Wills from Montana State, a cornerback. He suffered a season-ending injury. It's pretty significant in the fact that there's a lot of unknowns at that cornerback position for Montana State. He was a transfer coming in from Penn who played 600 plus snaps. So he brought in great experience. Unfortunately, he won't be available. But I think just with how Montana State has recruited that position, it's a significant injury, but it's not necessarily a difference-making injury for the Cats.
You wrote a column on UND, and I was really interested in that, and I'm high on UND. I think they could be the team to win the league in the Missouri Valley Football Conference this year, and you had a great line in it that UND has been an almost program for too long, and you're exactly right. They've had some good players. They've won 7 games. They've won 8. They haven't been able to get over that hump, and maybe this is the year with the kind of talent they have on both offense and defense to do that in 2026.
Yeah, that line brought me back to high school basketball where my coach, Arlie Ohm, would always say, don't be an almost player. Like, you don't want to be the player that almost made that play, or you almost got that steal and you whiffed on it and, kind of left the rest of the defense out to dry. And I think that kind of, like, UND has been an almost program where they've almost risen the ranks to be like a legit FCS contender. And each of the last 3 seasons, they've risen into the top 10, whether it was after beating NDSU a few years ago or 2 years ago, they beat Montana. Last year, they were, I think, 6-2 and ranked in the top 10. Yep. But each of those years, they've either ended in the mid-teens or I think it was 2 years ago, they ended unranked. And so they've gotten into the top 10. They just couldn't stay there. And the point of my column was, will they be able to stay there this year? Because they are preseason number 10 in the media poll and the coaches poll. I think they're going to keep on rising up because their first 6 FCS games, they should win against unranked teams. And then they end the year with, I think it's 5 straight unranked team, or excuse me, 5 straight ranked teams. And so I could see UND, they keep on winning. Other teams are losing. UND could be 5, 6, 7 in the rankings by mid-October. The question is, can they stay there? And can they, instead of almost beating highly ranked teams, can they actually beat those teams and stay highly ranked and set themselves up with a high playoff seed?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, when you look at what their schedule, and you talked about up the front, I mean, they got like Portland State and Long Island and St. Thomas, Murray and Northern Iowa. They're all on the front side of it. Indiana State, that the only outlier is the FBS game with Nebraska. They should be 6-1 by the time they hit the back end, which includes the Jackrabbits, South Dakota, Illinois State, SIU, a couple of those games. South Dakota State is up in Grand Forks. They got to win the home. We've talked about it, how different they are at home. They got to do that. They do that, then we're talking a high playoff seed in 2026.
Absolutely, yeah. And if they play clean football, I think they could be within striking distance of Nebraska in the fourth quarter and be in that game. And, I could see a situation where all of a sudden, like, FBS football fans are starting to tweet about, like, hey, it's 24-21 right now. Nebraska's winning in the fourth quarter. Pay attention to this game because UND has the ball. We saw that last year. They nearly beat Kansas State. And, I don't know if necessarily they'll win, but through 7 weeks, we might be talking about the quality loss for UND because if they keep it close at Nebraska, that might tell us more about the Hawks compared to beating up on Portland State or LIU. But yeah, those final 5-ish weeks are going to be really key for the Hawks.
Fighting Hawk fans do not want to hear the word quality loss ever again after what happened.
Exactly. Don't almost win.
Exactly right. Appreciate the time as always. Next week, we're talking actual games. We'll be a day away from football games happening. Thanks for the time as always, bud. Be well. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
There he is. Sam Herder joins us each and every Wednesday. New time slot for Sam throughout the football season. We're talking FCS ball, folks. We won't abandon it, but some good stuff there. The Villanova thing is wild, and that's where decision-making sounds like it's heading, because I think the Protect College Sports Act is done. If it didn't happen before recess, and it didn't in the Senate, that I just don't think it's going to happen, that now – it'd be incumbent on conferences we're going to make up our rules then. And if you're out of eligibility because we're going to enforce the 5-for-5 thing, then you're done. Granted, you can still sue, but them being private entities might work better than the NCAA at large, because certainly that has not worked. Okay, let's break. We come back with a few emails to get to. We'll wrap up our first hour. Mark Johnson coming up in hour 2 to get us ready for the Bobcat, which tees off tomorrow. Hot Mic rolls on a Wednesday morning. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Sam Herder for giving us a few minutes. Just bizarre to, again, I'm trying to follow as best I can, but it's just different. Normally be locked in, like, all right, we know who the top 10 teams are, do a bracketology. I'm not doing that. Doing a college football playoff bracket, I don't think anybody interested in, frankly. Now, I will say, Sam's colleague, former NDSU classmate as well, Colton Poole, who also works for Hero Sports, he covers the group of 6. Colton reached out to me, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and asked if I would be a voter for their doing a media poll for the G6 top 25, which was awesome, like absolutely. And then I sat down to actually compile the preseason, and we're going to vote on it weekly, right? Of like, man, this is a different deal. Like the teams included in there, because it's obviously no Power 4 teams, and it's just the 6 G6 schools we're talking about. So the Pac-12, Mountain West, Sun Belt, Conference USA, the American, and the MAC. And it's like, man, this is a different experience than going through it with on the FCS side. And I don't know, I'm sure we're going to have countless times we're going to say that throughout the next 4 months or so. And even for fans, I'm sure they've gone through that over the last little bit. And that's why I asked Mike that question yesterday. Because I found myself, as we're editing these preview shows together and getting everything ready, and I was clicking through the South Dakota State semifinal game from 2 years ago. And the energy in the Dome was awesome. That was a great football game. Bison obviously won to go to Frisco when they won their last FCS championship. And I just thought, like, okay, that won't happen again. Terms of the playoff bracket style deal where win a game, advance, win a game, advance, win a game, go to the national title game, advance. Where the best they can hope for now is to, and this is a big bleeping deal, host the Mountain West Championship game, win that, and then maybe go to the college football playoffs. Not guaranteed, but potentially. And I did get a little nostalgic on that. I'm like, well, that will be different. I'm sure it'll be amped. It'll be huge. And depending on who the team is, man, that could be a big bleeping day. But it will be, I do wax poetically on it because I remember the emotion in the building in 2011 when they won against Georgia Southern to go to the title game in Frisco for the first time. I sort of remember the next year when they beat Georgia Southern. I remember the James Madison game of the semifinals in 2021, the Incarnate Word game the following year when there was nobody in the building. I say nobody because of a huge snowstorm that happened that day or the day before. I remember we were tracking Incarnate Word's flight to come in. It just will not have that same deal. And Mike's point, well, how many people were in the building? And I get it. There weren't. There wasn't a ton. And it's going to be different. But just it's okay to miss that, I think, as well, is just my point. And I will miss that when we get to December and we see the FCS playoffs going. I think I will not look longingly at it, but I will miss that part of it, the win in advance kind of deal, because that was the best part of the FCS format. There's not a question in my mind. That's why the CFP wants to go to 16 or 24. Now, granted, they're not going to involve any more G6 teams, but that's what they're looking to do. And if they end up finally agreeing on a format, man, the people that have not paid attention to FCS football will suddenly get it on a massive scale going forward. All right, we're overdue for a break. We'll caught up here. We come back. We'll talk some golf with our guy Mark Johnson to preview this year's Bobcat Open returning to Rose Creek. We'll do that when Hour 2 gets rolling here on a Wednesday. We're back after this.
This is Hot Mic with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Hour 2, ready to rock and roll here on a Hump Day Wednesday. I mentioned off the top of the show, we're getting to that part of the year where I know school's right around the corner because obviously we got football ready to go. High school games start Friday. But the next event that's big on our local calendar starts tomorrow, which was always the signal like, all right, the Vikes aren't far away. It's time to rock. And that's the Bobcat Open, which returns to Fargo at Rose Creek Golf Course. It tees off tomorrow, goes through Saturday, the 62nd edition, with some just tremendous players, both collegiate and professional, in the area. And the guy who has ran it forever, as far as I've known, I've been here 20 years, it's the only guy I know who does it, is Mark Johnson, who joins us here this morning. One of our favorites here. It's been too long since we had him on the show. How you been, my man?
Hey, Dom. I've been really well. Yeah, thanks for having me on. 20 years, it's our anniversary. It must have been your first year, was my first year.
There we go. And I know it always gets hectic this time of year, but I have to ask, we talked a little bit in the break. Traditionally, it's always been Friday to Sunday. Tell us about the date change of going Thursday to Saturday.
Yeah, we're excited about that change, and it's really played out well. You know, the Dakotas Tour, which has been a professional golf tour in place since the early 80s, combined with the Asher Tour. And for those that don't follow mini tour golf, Asher Tour has a tremendous following in California, Arizona, and Nevada. Just they've done a great job with really the similar thing that the Dakotas Tours offered, and that's a place to play for these professionals that are aspiring to get on Korn Ferry Tour or PGA Tour Americas and eventually PGA Tour. So Dakotas Tour is unique in that it's a Pro-Am tour. So normally, a lot of professional tours that pros just teed up and play. This tour, they play with amateurs the first couple days, which is a unique nuance, and we've kept that tradition over the years. But we partner with the Asher Tour. Michael O'Leary is the tour director, and he brings just many years of experience. And so he looked at our schedule and he said, PGA Tour Americas, they're up in Winnipeg, I think this weekend. They're in Brainerd next week. And he said, if you modify your event a day earlier, I think you're going to find guys would stick around. They'd play that. They would, if they're in the Brainerd event, they would hop over there and play, or have an opportunity to Monday qualify. So we moved to Thursday. We'll be done Saturday. They could go play practice round in Brainerd and Monday qualify on Monday, and then hopefully get in the field there. So that move has turned out. We've got a real nice field, about 160 players, some of the best collegiate amateurs in the area, as well as just a solid professional field.
19 under was the winning score last year. Is that out there with how dry it's been? Do you foresee that happen in the next 3 days?
Yeah, we think it's going to be similar again. Rose Creek held up fantastic last year. The winning score was, a little lower than what we might see year in, year out at Fargo Country Club. But, that cut number was about the same. And even final day, some of the professionals were over par that last day. So these guys are burning it up, though. 30-some under for a 4-day event last week in Minot. We're seeing a lot of new faces professionally, and that's the impact of the Asher Tour. I think it's probably a stronger professional field than we've had in many years. So it's going to be low with no rough. The wind will be important to keep these guys a little bit honest, but we don't trick it up. We're trying to have a fair contest, and if these guys go low, they go low. That's how good they are.
Describe, Mark, the transition to Rose Creek, how that's gone. FCC obviously was a longtime host. What do you make of what Rose Creek has done and ready to do it again this weekend?
Yeah, well, they've done a great job. Rose Creek's a fun golf course to play. It's a busy facility. Matt Cook and his crew there, they've done just a tremendous job. The maintenance staff, the greens, and that's what really matters to a lot of the players. You step on the golf course, you want the ball to roll, and these greens are rolling. The thing that you're not seeing is the rough, and we just don't have the rough because they haven't had much rain this year. So, but the golf course is going to be a good test. We mix in a little bit of wind. Yeah, they might go low, but it's going to be all you want. If you get out of position to some of the hole locations with that wind, you're going to make some bogeys. So we're really excited about Rose Creek and how they set up the golf course and how the food and beverage amenities set up out there. So it's going to be a great week.
Looks like weather's going to cooperate as well, which, granted, is par for the course, no pun intended, considering it hasn't rained all summer long. Your involvement in this, I know how much it's a love affair. You're doing it for 2 decades now. What have you tried to do with the event beyond obviously changing venues to adapt with the times here in 2026?
Well, that's a good question. When I first started, there was such a large team component to this event, and that goes back, to the 80s and well before me, where really you had to be part of a company sponsor to get in this event. That's morphed more into an individual event. We certainly still have our team portion. Today's the Pro-Am out in Oxbow for the Shriners Hospital. That kind of kicks things off. And tomorrow we'll have a Pro-Am mixed in with the 3-day. But the biggest change I've seen is it's really been a stepping stone for a lot of collegiate players to kind of get their games ready to go for the fall season, see how they compete with professionals that are trying to make it playing as a living. So that's probably been the biggest change in the format of the event. But to be a part of it is something I aspired to play in when I was a kid, played in it professionally. And to be running it, when you look back, you blink and it's 20 years later. It's kind of amazing, as you're well aware.
So, people know Tom Hoagie played in this event, Dave Schultz played in this event. Who are some other names, maybe the people that follow golf have come through Fargo and played here?
Sure. I mean, Tom Lehman, of course, came through. He's an Alexandria guy. And before he made it big, I mean, he literally went from struggling on Dakota's tour to a major champion. Right? He won on the Nike tour at that time.
Yeah.
But he parlayed that into 3, 4, 5 years later, he's a major champion. It's just hard to fathom. You go from thinking about he was going to be the director of the cross country ski lodge at the University of Minnesota to a Hall of Fame career.
Wow.
So we've seen guys like Zach Johnson. Zach was a Drake guy that came up here. One year he didn't make it. He didn't make it out of the Monday qualifier.
That's
he shot
wild.
78, and they sent him a refund check. Then the next year he did well, made the cut, and then shortly after that he wins the Masters, probably within 5-6 years. So, that's how good these guys are. And another kid that comes to mind, Marcus Plunkett. His story is still being written. So his grandfather owned Plunkett's Home Furnishing in Moorhead. So if you're an old timer out there listening, you might remember Plunkett's Home Furnishing. And his Marcus's dad, Dan, went to Moorhead High, played golf, and went up to University of North Dakota. Went to school up there, and I met him, or I knew they were members of Moorhead Country Club. Well, they lived on the golf course in Florida, the TPC Sawgrass, and Marcus grew up playing golf, passionate family for golf. Well, Marcus came up, played Dakota's tour, had some limited success. I'd say maybe made 50% of the cuts here over 4 or 5 years at the Bobcat. Well, I'm looking at the leaderboard at the Open Championship this year over in Scotland, and he's got himself in contention. It was really neat to see. He made the cut, and now there's a guy that he's just been out there grinding. And he was playing some DP World Tour stuff. And if you play well, and Thomas said it, if you play well at the right time and then you parlay that into some more good golf, that's how it happens for these guys. There's so many guys that can play at that level. So you have to take advantage when you have your hot streak. And it looks like a guy like Marcus Plunkett that was a 50% cut maker here, found himself in the mix at the Open Championship.
That's
a pretty neat story.
That's a great story. And, you live it. And I try and talk about this when we talk about, Tom, obviously, Hoagie didn't have the year he wanted to. He didn't make the FedEx Cup playoffs for the first time in a few years. And it's so fleeting, Mark, where you can have an unreal run like he had a couple years ago, or now where he didn't have a bad year, but he didn't have the year he wanted. It can go like that in golf. It's remarkable.
Right. Yeah, nothing's guaranteed, right? I mean, maybe you get into that elite stratosphere where you won multiple majors, you're going to have exemptions for a long time. And there's always coming out of school, and they're more prepared than ever to play at that level. You're seeing some of these young guys, and they're trying to take your job. And there's no signed contracts, there's no guarantees, so you gotta play the game. And with age comes wisdom and knowledge of golf courses. But boy, that window it can close in a hurry. Yeah. And I think Tom will figure it out. He'll evaluate the year, and he's not done. So there's a lot of talent coming, but Tom's a real talented guy, and he's a smart guy. He'll figure it out.
Well, you look at the other guys that aren't playing either this week in St. Louis or next week that didn't even make the playoffs. I mean, there are some big names. It's not just our guy we're following. There's some huge names on the PGA Tour that aren't part of it.
Yeah, that's right. And, I don't know if they're ever going to get it right. I think it depends upon what names are in the playoffs. But there doesn't seem to be a lot of movement in the playoffs. And if there are any talkers, it seems like it's the guys that missed out. And, that's maybe not the type of playoffs you want. That kind of reminds you of some ill will of NHL playoffs, and how that's handled. So I think I don't know what the answer is. I don't claim to know what the answer is. But, yeah, when you have marquee names not battling what I think most golfers feel like it's still kind of middle of the season. I know they try not to compete with the NFL season, but I think most folks want to see some golf for a while yet. To have some of your best players not involved, that I think it eliminates some of what folks tune in for.
I got to ask you how big a deal it was to have Scotty Scheffler play the 3M Open down the road. The crowds were amazing. How big a deal was that to have the number one player in the world play in Minnesota last month?
Yeah, that's huge. Hollis, the tournament director there, he's been working him for many years, and for Scotty to do that, you can see that impact. I mean, they were talking about. There were crowds that were major championship level on Thursday, or even practice rounds where there were a lot of people out there. So he brings people in, maybe not quite to the level that Tiger did, but he has that effect. And golf in Minnesota, we're in this area, we're kind of starved for seeing the stars. And when you have that opportunity, it's 3.5 hours. That's not that long a drive. Go watch best players in the world. So I'm glad he played. By all accounts, it was a great week. The superintendent there, Joe Rolstead, he was at Fargo Country Club for a number of years. And to see the condition he had that golf course in, it was absolutely perfect. And the greens were rolling. And I joked I sent him a text. I joked if we needed John Mark to go down and set some hole locations, kind of tuck those pins so those guys wouldn't go so low.
Oh, it's hard when they go 26 under par to win. It's like, what are we supposed to do when it's like mini golf out there? Last thing before we go on this weekend, you mentioned we got a great group of professionals, but the college guys is always a huge part. The amateurs is such a huge part of this. And the level of amateur golf, we know we talk about what the Bison golf team did this season, not to rub that in, but there's some really good local players and local teams that are going to be participating this week as well.
Yeah, we'll have a strong field. We always get a mix of a few Gophers players that come down play, or come up and play, I should say, but we'll have all the NDSU players, University of North Dakota, St. Thomas, of course, they're all fighting it out now in that same conference, Summit League. St. Thomas has been a great addition to that league. We have some University of Mary kids playing, Crookston, Augsburg, Charlie Solberg, local kid that has gone to Augsburg and is bringing some of his friends back to play. I know I'm probably forgetting some of these guys that are coming in from other schools to play, but this field on the amateur side, collegiately, is as strong as I've ever seen. And we have a few young high school players that are aspiring to get themselves noticed as well. Nice. in that recruiting scene. So we're going to have a mix of some of the best high school players in the tri-state area as well, trying to make it to the top and see if they can't get noticed and get recruited. So I'm really looking forward. We have some area high school players as well that are playing the Pauluses. It's going to be a great weekend to see who steps up, who gets it done.
When is the last time you actually played a round? I know you're a busy man. When's the last time you actually got out and played?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I played a 4-ball match with Greg McCullough, PGA legend, Edgewood guy that now works with us here at Oxbow. We had a 4-ball match against a couple young guys. We met Greystone. So we've been playing the Minnesota PGA 4-ball since 1992-ish. And we think we have the most wins in the history of that tournament. Not because we've won the tournament, because we've just the longest team that's played in it. We usually win 1 or 2 matches a year. So anyways, we show up to the young guys. We were being outdriven by a 3-iron. This guy had 3-iron longer than we could ever drive, and it wasn't even close. and we got waxed.
Oh, man.
So we're done.
Well,
but that was my last round probably about 3 weeks ago.
That's pretty good. I would have guessed like a couple months, so I'm glad you're able
No, 3 weeks
to
ago.
get
We're trying
out
to
there.
play a little bit here and there. The fall, for folks, I think fall golf's the best there is. September,
Totally.
October, of course,
Yes.
are less busy. Weather's
Totally.
great. So.
I agree with you there. I know you're a busy man. Thanks so much for doing this. I have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Thanks, Tom. Always a pleasure.
Good to see you. There he is, Mark Johnson, tournament director. The Bobcat Open gets going out at Rose Creek. Starts tomorrow. If you're a golf fan like I am, it's great to get out there and watch. You got some the talented players that have come through here, and Mark was just listing off a few of them. This is an event that's 6 decades old. That's moved around, and it's over at Rose Creek. And like I mentioned, the winning score last year was 19 under par, 63, 64, 66. That's all right for 3 days. We'll see what materializes over the next 3 days out at Rose Creek. Appreciate Mark's time. All right, we'll break. We'll get back on time here. We've got a few emails to get to. And, again, I'm going to talk about how early college football is going to start here in about 15 minutes as well. We're back on Hot Mic right after this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Beautiful Wednesday on tap. Shouldn't be too bad outside. All right, so we're reaching that time of the fall camp season in college football where QB battles are going to be decided or announced or at least figured out over the next little bit, especially if they're playing in week 0. Pete Thamel reports this. San Jose State has made its announcement at quarterback that former Hawaii transfer, you can bring it up here, Brody, former Hawaii transfer Luke Weaver is going to be the guy at quarterback for the Spartans for their opener against San Jose State. Thamel reports that Weaver went 2-0 as a starter for Hawaii last year through the game-winning touchdown relief in the Hawaii Bowl. We saw that. We played that highlight back earlier this year when we found out that the Bison were joining the Mountain West. Weaver won a close camp battle with redshirt freshman Robert McDaniel and true freshman Daniel Rolovich. In 5 games last year, Weaver completed 63 of 105 passes for 628 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. When we visited with Ken Niumatalolo when we were out at Mountain West Media Days in Las Vegas, I asked him about what they're going to do here. So, well, we've got 3 guys in the mix, and we're going to see how it pans out. And they're going to go with the Hawaii guy to lead them. San Jose State plays a week from Saturday against USC. I believe at 2:30 a week from Saturday, right out of the chute. So one of the 4 Mountain West teams that are playing in week 0, joining Hawaii, North Dakota State, also playing in that opening Saturday of the season, and obviously UNLV playing the late game with Memphis. That's one. Then the other QB story is based in Albuquerque right now. And we talked about this last week on Hot Mic in that regards with New Mexico and what they're going to do right now. Sean Ryder, who we had on the show earlier this year, has a story out from yesterday saying that New Mexico has got to make its decision. Jason Eck, head coach of the Lobos, who's featured everywhere, by the way, saying, when will New Mexico name a starting quarterback? Sooner rather than later. Subheadline is, Eck plans to name starting quarterback this week, wants to finalize depth chart for preparing for Central Michigan. They play in that traditional week 1 window of their season. And that's the burning question here, because if Jack Lang can't go, and Lang hasn't practiced at all, still recovering from that elbow surgery that transpired in the offseason, then is it Luke Moga is going to be the guy? We just don't know of what they're going to go with here. It's really interesting on where they're at with their QB battle right now, because there's a bunch of different options that Eck could potentially go with. We don't know on the way that this is going to happen. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out over the next little bit with them. I'm infinitely curious on what they do. That's one of a couple quarterback battles that we still don't know on what was going to happen here with them. So between those are 2, there's 5 QB battles. Wyoming's another one that's out there that obviously has some question marks on what they want to do. They might go with the transfer from William & Mary and Tyler Hughes. Nevada hasn't named its guy yet. Jeff Choate has been pretty close to the vest, as he normally is, on what they want to do with their starting quarterback. Again, if you have a QB battle, doesn't necessarily mean you don't know who your guy is going to be, but at this state of the game, you want to start finalizing things, knowing full well you got a game to come here in the not-too-distant future. That, to me, is the really interesting part on what could happen with their various teams. So that's the latest there out of San Jose State and New Mexico. One other quick email came in before we break, and I want to talk about the absurdity of how early we're going to start playing college football. This just came in from our friends at FB Schedules as well. Northern Illinois adds Western Illinois to 2030 football schedule. Not great. Northern Illinois will host Western Illinois at Husky Stadium in DeKalb, Illinois on Saturday, August 31st, 2030. The Huskies will play the Leathernecks a $400,000 guarantee for playing the game, according to a copy of the contract. So if you're keeping score, last week, Western Illinois, we chatted about, got a game with Boise, which I immediately was furious over because I want North Dakota State to get a game with Boise State. And now they got a game with Northern Illinois. Western will take any and all money. We know that for darn sure because that's how rough a shape they're in with their situation right now. So that's two in terms of games for Western Illinois. Leathernecks are still fighting it out there in the Ohio Valley Conference and still looking to be somewhat relevant in the coming years. It's just been a slot. Western Illinois has been good for probably a decade. It's probably the last time they were relevant in college football. So love the scheduling announcement there. And that's a perfect segue for our break. When we come back, again, if you thought August 29th is early to play a football game like the Bison will, or August 27th like UND will, wait till I tell you when we could start the season next year and the year after that. Hot Mike rolls on a Wednesday morning. We're back after this.
This is Hot Mike with Dom Izzo, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Final half hour here. Hey, tomorrow, to get your appetite whetted for high school football this weekend, the Region 4 Rumble is returning out to Mandan with I think 5 9-man games going on out in Mandan's turf field. We'll preview that coming up on the show tomorrow. That's on Saturday. So if you don't have your full on Friday night of games, and we got a bunch, and you can see it on our ticker right now, the different games are going to be going on across the state. Saturday, there's 5 games from teams featured out west playing on the turf in Mandan. We'll check in, give you an update on that coming up tomorrow on the show. Now, I have said long in the summer months here that after the 4th of July that my summer is over because we're basically just a few weeks away from the start of the football season. And this year it was pretty accurate because whatever it was, 10 days after the 4th of July, we were in Las Vegas covering Mountain West Media Days. I wish I had any sense how right I was going to be for the future on this because as we've talked about and we reported on this show, the NCAA made it official in June. You'll remember we talked about that there is now the standardized start of the season that the FBS is going to start 14 Saturdays prior to the first Saturday in December. That makes sense. The FCS did this a year ago where they were going to start 13 Saturdays before to play 12 games. They wanted to go to a 12-game schedule because for years it had only been 11. And the FBS is playing 12, so why was the FCS getting one less game? They signed that off, and that starts now. Well, little did we know, and thanks to our friends at FB Schedules, one of my favorite websites out there, they went through the NCAA manual. It got published on Monday. The NCAA manual is about a 6,000-page document. I don't know if anybody would ever want to click through that, but they did. And inside said document, they would find out exactly now that there is language in there to start the season. It is written as such that the first bowl subdivision football, an institution shall not play its first game with outside competition before the Thursday preceding Labor Day. That was the rule. That was the old one. Now, going forward, starting next year in bowl subdivision football, an institution shall not play its first contest with outside competition before the Thursday preceding the Saturday that is 14 weeks before the first Saturday in December. So what that means, if we could show it to you here in graphic form, these are the dates of when the season can start. Next year for FBS football, that Thursday is August 26th. In 2028, it's August 24th. And in 2029, it's August 23rd. That is bleeping early for football. You don't have to play then. But what that means, because where Labor Day is locked into the calendar, that means we have the 14 Saturdays prior. So we're going to see games scheduled for these particular dates. And then it gets a little bit later in 2030 and 2031. I want to draw your attention to this on the FCS side of things. Look at this. The FCS, starting next year, could play August 26th. They could play as early as August 19th. I thought North Dakota football was wild. In 2029, they could play August 16th. Now, why I say could is because, again, this is 14 Saturdays before Selection Sunday. So some teams could have 2 byes. I don't see anybody in FCS going to do this. No games are currently scheduled in this window yet. And I don't know if anybody is going to take advantage of that. For the 2026 season, the date to start is Thursday, August 20th. We could actually have games tomorrow. But because it got enacted so late, nobody hopped on board on that. So that's why we have games coming next Thursday. You imagine if we're playing football tomorrow? Which is based on when Selection Sunday is, which this year is November the 22nd. Bertie, if you could leave that up there, please. I appreciate that. Again, starting next season, we could have football on August the 19th. It could go August 16th in 2029. The point of this is, I guess it doesn't matter when we're starting games. Tell me when we're starting camp. And that's the part that gets really messy on this. Because already coaches have such a little time off to begin with, right? June is now going to be taken up because we're going to have OTAs and summer workouts happening and basically practices happening in June, that they have maybe a couple weeks off in July. Now you're telling me if we start playing football games in the FBS in 2029 on August 23rd, you got to open up camp basically a month before, because now we're going to go down to 21 days of practice because they're taking 5 practices out of fall camp and moving those to the spring/summer. So it's going to cost more because you're going to have to open up the dorms. You're going to have to bring a campus center back open. You're going to have open up dining halls earlier because you got to feed these guys. All of that would cost. I can't imagine that would be well thought of going forward. So we're talking, July 15th to start camp? If you thought I was crazy about talking about it, summer being done, this is now in black and white from the NCAA of when you could start playing games. I mean, that's early. Personally, I think the last Saturday in August is okay because we talked about this earlier in the week that there's going to be some colleges, NDSU being one of them, the Bison are going to play three games where the Vikings play their first one. And obviously the NFL has already talked about they want to go to 18 games. That the only way they can get to 18 is if they start earlier. Well, then you've got already a crowded weekend there, getting even more so when the NFL eventually. It's not going to happen in 2027. That was the rumor because the Super Bowl didn't have a date yet. That got locked in a couple weeks ago. So 18 games is off the table for 2027. But 28, 29, eventually those dates you saw up there for when college football is going to start, the NFL is going to creep into now on Labor Day weekend. They have always started after Labor Day. You can book it once we go to 18, that it's going to start that early. And I don't feel great about that, honestly, because I think both the athletes and coaches need just some time away. Just to get – it's so overwhelming now of 365, specifically in football. And frankly, you want to have something like go out at least and enjoy your summer. That would pretty much eliminate that. It will eliminate that. Now, you don't have to play on those dates. Those dates we had up there on the screen. You don't have to do that. For FBS teams, I mean, you could go with it. I think this past year they did, where they played 12 games in 13 weeks. I think some like having the second bye. The other part to this, because I know I had said this when we had heard that they were going to make the permanent shift to get rid of week 0. Week 0 is actually not going away. In those years, in 2030 and 2031, when we're back to a more quote-unquote normal start, that's because Labor Day is earlier on the calendar. You could traditionally have your week 0 game before then on August 22nd or August 21st. So it's not dead. Week 0 is still very much alive. This is from FB Schedules. Week 0 will continue to exist in years when the calendar produces 15 weeks, including the weekend prior to Labor Day and the final Saturday in November. The next years that'll occur is 2030, 2031, 2036, 2041, and 2042. And this is important and relevant for North Dakota State. Hawaii and teams playing in Hawaii remain eligible to open their seasons in week 0 under exception, whatever it is, in the NCAA handbook. Teams playing internationally may also open under early exception. Any other program will require an NCAA exemption. So we know every other year the Buys are going to play in Hawaii. That means the week 0 deal will still be in effect for them going forward. So that's why NDSU's playing in week 0 this year, because they're going to Hawaii. In 2028, if we assume it's going to be every other year how this works, and the Mountain West may change it up a little bit, in 2028, NDSU again would be eligible for a week 0 start, which under, now as they can look at it, that would be August 24th. That's so bleeping early to play a football game. Hey, we all love it. We're opening camp, July 20th, 21st? We're right in the middle of summer. And that's why we're going to wrap this segment up here, but I also think why, and the ticket sale, it's trending in a good direction for Jacksonville State. But I still think it's still summer. I know we're hardcore football here. We've been in it for a while. But for a lot of people, the normals out there, it's still summer. It's 80 whatever degrees today. People are still out enjoying vacation. School, I know, is imminently starting. For some in North Dakota, it starts tomorrow. Others, it starts next week, a week from today. But August 29th, I think, still correlates summer for a lot of people. And I get it. The Bison played a week 0 game with Charleston Southern 10 years ago, 2016. I forget what day it was. It was like August 26th or something like that. And that place was hopping. That was the pinnacle of when attendance of the Dome was as good as it was ever going to get. But it still felt like we were in the summer months here before it was ready to start the college football season. And maybe that's part of this as well. I still want to enjoy it doesn't feel like football yet. When we get to September and Labor Day, then it does. And I'm here to tell you, especially going forward, these dates are going to get only earlier. You saw it there. You imagine next season, August 19th, like South Dakota State is playing a game with, I don't know, Long Island or somebody. Like UND playing on August 17th, 2028 in their opener. Like, the Twins are still looking to be relevant. And you know what? We're still talking baseball. Heck, like the Legion World Series is still going. Pine to pine, like, you know what I mean? Like that. Just seems disjointed, but that's the new state of affairs where we're going with the start of the – and frankly, college football is trying to move up because they want to start their postseason earlier and get out of the way of the NFL. And the NFL saying, all right, well, we're going to start earlier too because we're adding a week and we're going to go longer into February. So for those that love football and can't get enough of it, this is music to your ears. For the rest that are, hey, I want to enjoy my summer, I hate to tell you this, but we could have media days like, what, July 5th, the day after the 4th of July now if we're starting this early? Crazy stuff coming forward. All right, we'll take our final break. We come back, we'll put a bow on things, get you ready. We've got a good Sports Wednesday on tap. Twins are going for a series sweep of Atlanta. We'll give you that on what to watch. And we'll wrap things up on WDAY Extra right after this. All right, putting a bow on things here on a Wednesday morning. Back with you tomorrow. We'll update from Bison Fall Camp as they are officially wrapping up here today. Then it's on to game week preps for Jacksonville State. We'll have that mentioned. We'll check in for the Region 4 Rumble that gets going on Saturday to start the high school football season. Looking forward to that. I was just reading here in the break. Last week we had Wayzata starting quarterback Thor Suka join us, who's obviously committed to play football at Minnesota State University Moorhead for next season. Wayzata, he talked about having one of the best players in the state back. Star Tribune as a whole feature on Eli Diane right now, who is the top football prospect in the class of 2027 that is committed to University of Minnesota. Diane missed all of last year, suffering a herniated disc in his L3 and L4 region of his lower back. So he's back, 6'4", 277 pounds, top recruit in the state of Minnesota for the class of 2027. He's the only Minnesota player to earn a 4-star rating from the college recruiting website. That's a pretty good class. We know there's 4 guys that reside in Moorhead, Minnesota, that are all going to the Gophers that do not have a 4-star rating there. But I encourage you to check that out. Star Tribune is doing an amazing job covering high school ball. They've been up here in Moorhead a handful of times. And frankly, we talked about this. 6A football is something we're going to be paying attention to. We certainly did last year. Even more so this fall, knowing Moorhead is where they're at in 6A. And frankly, the amount of players that in 6A that are going to be playing college ball up here. Minnetonka might be the best team in the state. Minnetonka's quarterback, Caden Gutzmer, committed to go play at UND. One of their standout wide receivers and cornerbacks, Cody Braun, is committed to go play football at North Dakota State. We mentioned the Moorhead guys. Diane from Wayzata playing at Minnesota. I can keep going. Maple Grove's got a handful. Obviously, Shakopee's got a few. We're going to be keeping our eyes on 6A football on Mondays. I can tell you that. It won't be just all Bison stuff. We're going to have plenty of high school content as well on Mondays starting here in the not-too-distant future. Obviously, Minnesota just started its high school practices on Monday, so they're just getting ramped up, and we'll be keeping our eyes on things. All right, let's do a few emails here. I've been teasing this throughout the show. We haven't had a chance to get a couple in before we wrap things up. Email comes in. Dom, I saw you last night with Jackman, but I didn't want to bug you when you were off as you were in street clothes. But I watch your show every day. You're my go-to for Bison content. Excited you get to call a couple of games this season. Well, first off, I appreciate that. Second, you could have bugged me. I'm not that big a deal. The Jackman had my attention for a bit since we were doing some bouncy house and stuff like that. But don't ever hesitate. Come up and say hello. That's not a big deal at all. I'm not that big a deal. But I appreciate the good words. And yes, we got a meeting today about some stuff we got coming. I don't know if I'm authorized to say it yet. But if you like your Sunday nights with some sports content after the news, like we did last week with our preview show, we got another one coming. I will just say stay tuned because we got some really cool stuff coming over the next, I'd say, 15 Sunday nights that we got in the works. That's all I'll tease on that for you football fans in the area. And it's not just Bison football fans. You're going to be certainly, I think, fulfilled with football content starting a week from Sunday. But appreciate that. Another email in. What's the update on the ticket sales? I would say shout out to our friend and colleague Grant Hubbard, North Dakota State student who has done some on-air work for us. I know he tweeted out yesterday that the Bison, the game with Jacksonville State is now under 900, I think, tickets here. So it's trending in that direction. And from what I visited with Matt Larson briefly last night, he's very confident that they could sell out more than half of the games this year, which would be an amazing accomplishment in year one of FBS. Let's do some What to Watch before we get out of here. All right, What to Watch brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. Twins coming up here in just a little bit against the Braves, going for the series sweep with Taj Bradley, 12:30 on Twins TV. Late tonight, the Lynx are on the West Coast. Golden State is really good. This should be a good one tonight. 9 o'clock on USA to watch the Lynx and the Valkyries, 1 and 2 in the WNBA standings. And one of the favorite events of the year, the Little League World Series, begins today from Williamsport. Coverage begins at noon on ESPN. They got games all day long from Pennsylvania. Our thanks to Drew Trafton, to Sam Herter, and to Mark Johnson. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay of our shows on WDAY+. Thanks so much for making us part of your day, everybody. Have a wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.